intro to music, let's talk about Basso Continuo. Basso Continuo is a type of song that has three instruments always involved. You need to have some sort of low instrument. What are the low instruments that exist out there? Well, if we're talking about modern ones, these didn't necessarily exist when Johann Sebastian Bach was alive, but a trombone is a low instrument, a tuba is a low instrument. Usually we're talking about cellos or stand-up basses, those giant string basses that people play. Could also be a bass guitar, but obviously those didn't exist when J.S. Bach was writing music, right? A solo instrument is next. The typical solo instruments are usually flute, piano, violin. Those are the most popular ones. Instrument that can play chords. Well, what kind of instruments can play chords or multiple notes at once, at least easily? That could be a guitar, a lute, or some sort of keyboard instrument like an organ or a harpsichord or a piano, something that can easily play more than one note at one time. So that's basso continuo. Figure bass is what they actually use when they're reading. It's like reading the notes plus something a little extra. It's a form of notation. So when we watch this video, I want you to pay attention for the little tiny numbers at the bottom. That's really what basso continuo is, these little numbers at the bottom. So since we learned about the instruments that are involved in basso continuo, try and figure out what they are. The video probably will give you the answer. And then make sure you understand, what is the role of each instrument here? Is it the low instrument, the bass, the solo, or the instrument that can play chords? So we're going to try and figure all this out. And guess who it's by? Our good friend J.S. All right, first things first, look for the tiny numbers. They're at the bottom. I'm going to go back real quick. Now that we paid attention to the numbers, did you see what the instrument is on the top line? That's the solo instrument. This is in a different language, but it actually said it on the main page. Hopefully you don't miss that answer because it's literally giving you the answer. The solo instrument is blank. All right. What about this continual line down here? You hear something twangy, right? I bet you could guess what that is. That's the keyboard instrument. The one that is making chords. Listen for that like metallic sound. All right. Don't forget that those small numbers down there that's the figured bass. Actually, this whole song is called a basso continuo, but the figure bass is the actual tiny numbers. Okay, there's the third instrument that we haven't deciphered yet. So do your best to guess what it is. It's a little bit hard to hear though. This instrument is playing the low notes down here, the dum 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 dum. So you have to listen very carefully, see if you can hear what the low instrument is. Do you hear it? It's like bum 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 bum. I hope that you can sort of kind of hopefully tell what instrument is playing that. Let's keep going a little bit because it kind of sticks out in this next bit and is a little bit easier to hear. All right, I will give you a hint. It's an instrument that has strings. It's a chordophone. I hope you figured it out because I'm not going to tell the answer right now. Okay, so that was our example of a basso continuo song. Basso continuo songs always include these three components. The instruments change depending on what the composer wants, and the figured bass are those tiny numbers. So let's learn a little bit more about that. So basso continuo uses the figured bass system, the little numbers, like we said, And it's about improvisation, right? Because, we know that when you read music, you're reading notes on lines and spaces. Um, so you're probably wondering to yourself, like, what do the numbers mean? Well, we're not going to really learn about that. This is intro to music. We're not necessarily going to get into that because it's a pretty complex system that was really popular then, and not a lot of people today actually know how to read those numbers. I know a little bit about it, but not really that much. Like, I know what it means, but I wouldn't necessarily be able to play it. This is the keyboard player that needs to play those tiny numbers, and it's about improvisation because obviously they're not giving you an actual note, they're just giving you a number, and you have to understand what it is and then be able to improvise the chord and not necessarily play at any certain rhythm, fast or slow, but kind of like make it up as you go in a way that fits the song, right? Because that's what improvisation is. So there is a way we can relate to something a little bit more relevant, modern day, and it's guitar tabs. So if you've ever dabbled in guitar, acoustic guitar usually, you can find guitar tabs online free very easily. This is a Maroon 5 song. So even though I don't have a guitar with me right now, I can kind of demonstrate by using my piano. So let me see where my piano is. There it is. If I make this smaller, then we'll be able to see both. So we have a C chord, a G chord, an A minor, and an F. And I know, even though there's not notes printed, what those things mean because I know how to read tabs. So it's similar to figured bass. I just need to figure out the right keys. Okay, so there's my C chord. And because I know how this song goes and I can understand what the C symbol means in the G and the A, then I can basically improvise my way by playing this keyboard and singing. Spend 24 hours, I need more hours with you. You spend the weekend getting even. Just for an example. So I'll show you how I'm going to improvise. I played it pretty simple there, and now I'm going to kind of change it up, make it a little fancier. I'm singing the same words, singing the same melody, but now I'm going to change the way I played those chords. All right? Here I go. Spend 24 hours, I need more hours with you. Spend the weekend getting even. All right, so similar to reading those tiny numbers, the first time I played it one way, kind of like stable, long chords, and then the second time I played the same symbols that I'm reading, C, G, A minor, F, and I was like skipping around, kind of making it fancy. So that's pretty much the same thing, pretty much.